Vaishnava qualities, and she's an amazing kirtan singer. She's very famous for melodious kirtans, and she's very sincere in bhakti practice. And as you all know, the two kids, Anika and Shreya, both are wonderful Vaishnavis, and that's because of Prabhu and Rahul. Rahul Prabhu and Swarna Manjari Mataji's upbringing. So that itself tells us that how devotional they are. And also, she is very fond of reciting the slokas from Bhagavad Gita during the Purushottam month. She wants to recite the slokas every week. In fact, every day. But we did every week. So you can see with such a devotion, she recites the slokas along with Sridevi Mataji and so on. So fantastic Vaishnavi. So she and Rahul Prabhu are pillar of support for our temple. And so with that, let us welcome Swarna Manjari Mataji by chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra one time loudly together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Over to you, Swarna Manjari Mataji.
Thank you, Satyasar Prabhu. And I have to start off by saying that I don't have all the Vaishnava qualities. We are so fallen. I have so many faults that you all don't know. My family obviously knows. But thank you so much. We are all working our way towards becoming Vaishnavas. So we'll start with Jai Radha Madhava. Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Girivaradhari, Jaya Girivaradhari, Jaya Yashodanandana, Jaya Braja Janaranjana, Jaya Yashodanandana, Jaya Braja Janaranjana, Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. I'm going to share screen. Give me a second. I am never good at this. 1 second. Okay, since I cannot find the file. Okay, hold on. Show all windows. I hope everybody can see the screen. If you cannot, please.
Yes, Mataji, we are able to see.
So we are going to start by reciting the pranam mantras. Please join in. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखावितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तु ते। तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभयेव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधारा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. I'm very, very honored today to have the opportunity. Satyasar Prabhu gave me the opportunity today. Today is the calendar, English calendar birthday of our Guru Maharaj. So I'm very, very honored to be doing this class today, and I want to offer this to him. So as we're getting to the end of the year, it is very common for, all of us have gone through it. And for me personally, I stopped doing it a few years ago, is New Year's resolutions. A lot of us develop New Year's resolutions. And what I realized early on is my New Year's resolution don't even last a month. So I think we have to be in a constant mode of resolution, not just at New Year's. So today's verse is going to be about determination and being resolute in Krishna consciousness. This is from chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 9, text 14. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridhavrata namasyantascha mam bhaktya nityayukta upasate. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridhavrata namastasyantascha mam bhaktya nityayukta upasate. Synonyms: Satatam, always. Kirtayanta, chanting. Mam, about me. Yatanta, fully endeavoring. Cha, also. Dhridavrata, with determination. And if you notice, I've bolded the with determination because after years, I can tell you that is the missing link for all of us who are struggling, including me. Namasyanta, offering obeisances, cha, and mam, me, bhaktya, in devotion, nitya yukta, perpetually engaged, upasate, worship. The translation is always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So the you know the clear message here that stood out to me just by reading translation even before I got to the purport was always chanting, endeavoring with great devotion, okay, and perpetually worshiping me. So all these words are here just to reiterate how important it is, the chanting, listening to the glories of the Lord, and continually worshiping the Lord. So we'll start with a little summary. Before we get into reading the purport, we'll start with a little summary of chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge. So Krishna has said in this chapter, this is the most confidential knowledge. He begins the ninth chapter by explaining to Arjuna, he says, "My dear Arjuna, because you're never envious of me, I shall impart you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence." Now, when I read this, the first thought that came to me is Krishna is saying, Arjuna, because you're never envious of me. If we have some confidential pleasure to share with somebody, like, in our material world, if you get uh, a good rank in school, if you get a promotion, you don't go telling everybody about it, right? Because most people are envious of us. And because of their envy, you're like, I don't think they're going to enjoy receiving this knowledge from me or this information from me. So you don't share that with everybody. You don't share how much you have in your bank account with everybody, but to those who are not envious of you, okay, and who feel happy in receiving this information from you, you only share it with them. So the key here is never envious of me. The reason we are here on this material planet is because we were envious of Krishna. So we wanted our independence. We were envious of Krishna. So Krishna said, okay, you can leave. And we came here. And once we are here, it is not easy for us to have that realization that because of our envy, because of our desire to be independent, we gave up the most valuable thing. For us who are in this class today, we are so blessed that we have received this information, this knowledge from the spiritual masters by disciplic succession, and we are beginning to gain that understanding. Arjuna was so fortunate. I mean, we just read the Bhagavad Gita, did the Bhagavad Gita recitation a few days ago, and Arjuna was so fortunate. And he received this knowledge directly from the Lord because he was never envious of the Lord. And he put his full faith and in the Lord and executed based on the instructions of the Lord. So those are the qualities that we are all striving to develop. Then in the ninth chapter, Krishna says, this knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge. And because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. I mean, this translation for it's the verse 2 of the ninth chapter. It is Rajavidya Rajaguyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmayam Susukham Kartum Avyayam. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam. It's the king of education, most secret of all secrets. Pavitram idam uttamam. It's the purest knowledge. And why is it the purest knowledge? Because it gives us the perception of self. We understand ourself by realization. It is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and joyfully performed. They say, Su sukham kartum avyayam. Su, when you put su before any word, it becomes very. Su sukham. That means there's a lot of joy and this the activity by receiving this education and by understanding this purest knowledge and by performing devotional service, it gives us susukham. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. So further in this chapter, so as we said, we'll start with a little bit of the chapter. This chapter is called the King of Education. Why is it called the King of Education? Because it is the essence of all doctrines and philosophies explained before. The Lord says that this ninth chapter is the king of all such knowledge, the essence of all knowledge that can be derived from the study of the Vedas and different kinds of philosophy. This knowledge is the purest form of activities as explained in the Vedic literature. So, the reason this is called the king of education and king of knowledge is, I'm going to read a little bit of the excerpt here. Generally, people are not educated in this confidential knowledge. Universities, schools, they're not teaching this. They are educated in the external knowledge and not in the science of the spirit and soul. Yet, the soul is the most important part of our body. Or it's actually an oxymoron. It's not a part of the body, but it is entrapped in this body. The soul is the most important part. Without the presence of the soul, this body has no value. When you look at somebody, and if any of you has seen a death in the family, you've seen, few minutes before, the body was functioning, the person was talking, and suddenly something has happened. The body looks exactly the same, but it is classified as dead. Why is that? The soul has left the body. So it says, without the presence of the soul, the body has no value. Still, people place great stress on the bodily necessities of life, not caring for the vital soul. Uh, many About a year ago, I think in one of the classes, I had talked about a king who had four wives, and he would care about one of his wife. He was very closely attached. He would care so much about her, give her so much love, and adorn her with ornaments, and take beautiful clothes. Okay. He had four wives. Let's say this was his fourth wife. The third wife was also one he would care about, but not as much. And the second wife, much less. And the first wife, he would not care about at all. When time came for this king to leave, he asked his fourth wife, very dear wife, and said, "Will you come with me when I leave this body?" And she said, "No, I won't." The third wife said no. The second wife said no. And finally, there was a weak voice that said, "I will come with you." That fourth wife, who he ignored all his life, is the equivalent of our soul, which we ignore. And did I say fourth? No, sorry, the first wife, which he ignored, was the soul. And the fourth wife, which he adorned with ornaments and jewelry and beautiful clothing and took so much care, was the first one to leave him. That is our body. So we are saying people place great stress on the bodily necessities of life, not caring for the vital soul. In the Bhagavad Gita, especially from the second chapter on, stresses the importance of the soul. In the very beginning, the Lord says that this body is perishable and the soul is not perishable. Antavanta ime deha nityokshata sharirana. That is the confidential part of this knowledge, simply knowing that the spirit soul is different from the body and that its nature is immutable, indestructible, and eternal. So so Krishna has been saying this from chapter 2, from almost the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. And when he comes to this chapter, by the time we get to, much advanced in the Bhagavad Gita, which we call chapter 9, Krishna says, he imparts this most confidential knowledge to Arjuna. Sometimes people are under the impression that the soul is different from the body, and that when the body is finished, the soul is liberated and the soul remains in a void and becomes impersonal. But that is not a fact. Prabhupada has taught us, how can the soul, which is so active in this body, the reason we have all this activity is not because the heart is working or the lung is working or the liver is working, because the soul is in this body. That is like so think of this body like a lamp. You may put the bulb in the lamp, but without electricity, the lamp will not light. So the soul is the equivalent of that electricity that is going through our body. And So if the soul is so active within this body, how can it be inactive after being liberated from this body? The soul is eternal. It is always active. It is the body that becomes inactive after the soul leaves the body. The soul is eternal. It is eternally active, and its activities in the spiritual kingdom are the most confidential part of the spiritual knowledge. These activities of the spirit soul are therefore indicated here as constituting the king of all knowledge. So, chapter 9 is talking about the activity of the spirit soul. And this is the most confidential part and the king of all knowledge. In Padma Purana, a man's sinful activities have been analyzed and shown to be results of sin after sin. Reason we keep taking birth is sin after sin. Okay. Those who are engaged in fruitive activities are entangled in the different stages and forms of sinful reactions. So, when they say different stages and forms of sinful reactions, like, if you know, in our personal experience of life, we have noticed that for some actions we get immediate result. For example, there is fire, you go and put your hand in the fire, your hand will get burned, instant reaction. And then we talk about, oh, this person is so sinful, doing all the wrong things, but look what a kingly life this person is leading. Why is his action not having reaction? So different actions take different time to manifest in the reaction form. So it says, for example, when a seed is sown, the tree does not immediately appear or grow. It takes time. It is first a small sprouting plant, then it assumes the form of a tree, then it flowers and bears fruit. When it is complete, the flower and fruits are enjoyed by the or endured by the person who have sown the seed of the tree. Similarly, a man performs a sinful act like a seed, and it takes time to fructify. I used to ask many devotees about this, that why are some actions instant and some not? And one of the examples they said is, there are some, when you sow, if you have, many of us do yard work and gardening, there are some plants like tomato or green chilies where you get the fruit pretty quickly. And, within weeks or within a month, you start seeing the flower and the fruit. And there are some like mango, which take years to give fruit. So think of our karmic actions in such a way. Some of them will fructify later, and some of them fructify immediately. Okay. The sinful action, maybe now that we are in this path of bhakti, we are conscious about sinful actions. So the sinful action may have already stopped within the individual, but the results of the fruit of the sinful action that we have done before are still to be enjoyed or endured. There are sins which are in the form of a seed, and others are already fructified, which we are enjoying as distress, either as distress or as pain or as pleasure. So, this is pretty much where we are saying, what is this king of education? What is this telling us? It is telling us about the activities of the soul and how we, because we are entangled and entrapped with the karmic activities, we continue to take birth and to experience the joy or um, uh, pain of our sinful reactions. Further, in this chapter, there is reference to chapter 7, Knowledge of the Absolute, verse 28. It says, as explained in 728, a person who has completely ended the reactions of all sinful activities and who is fully engaged in pious activities, being freed from the duality of this material world, becomes engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. In other words, those who are actually engaged in devotional service of the Supreme are already freed from all reactions. So we are all in the material world and we are under the influence of Maya. So all our activities, in fact, the verse that the kids also recited today, 1856, what that is saying is our ordinary activities, we will continue to perform. But if we perform them in the mode of devotional service to the Supreme, then we are freed from the reactions. So in this verse also it says, Yeshvam tvanta gatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvanda moha nirmukta bhajante mam dhrida vrata. Again, bhajante mam dhrida vrata. So what we are saying is we have to be determined. Again, we are coming to the end of the year. For those of us who form New Year's resolution, this should be a daily resolution. Bhajante mam dhrida vrata. Or in the previous verse, as we were saying, the dhrida vrata is referred so many times in Bhagavad Gita because even in the material world, whether you want to go to an Ivy League school, whether you want to become a CEO, whether you want to, be a businessman, whatever you need to do, you have to have dhrida vrata. You have to have ir- irresolute determination. So if you have to have the determination for mundane things, material things which are temporary, okay, which you may have happiness today but may not have tomorrow, then what to talk of devotional life? The biggest, for years, for almost uh, 15 years, I would chant, I would stop. I would chant, I would stop. Sometimes it used to be 16, sometimes it used to be 2, sometimes it used to be none. And one day Guru Maharaj told me, he's like, you cannot give yourself an option. It is not an option. You have to do it. I still remember that meeting with Guru Maharaj. This was in 2016. I think it was sometime spring of 2016 when Maharaj was going to China. He had stopped at LA, and whenever he would stop at LA, he would tell me in advance so that we could meet for lunch. That was one day, for some reason, I was in no mood. And I feel ashamed saying that today, but I was in no mood to go and meet Maharaj. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to even talk to him. I went with zero motivation, zero inspiration. The only inspiration I had was to drive and reach the temple, okay, which I did. And for those of you who know LA traffic, it's really bad. So it was a 28-mile distance, which probably took me an hour and a half. I got there, and all through my drive there, I was like, what am I going for? I just don't feel motivated. We sat down, we had lunch. I explained to Maharaj that I have zero motivation at this time. He listened to me and he said, Supriya, this is not an option. You have to do it. Srila Prabhupada told us that you cannot say, I can't. You have to chant. Chanting is not an option. Now, you would think that, mere words like this, how can they impact somebody's heart to be committed and to take action with determination? But it's when a pure devotee, a pure soul imparts even the slightest of education, it has so much potency that it transforms our heart. And I remember after I got home, I still got back to work, and it was 7:30 in the evening. And I picked up my beads and I said, I know it is late in the day to start chanting, but I went for a walk. I chanted my 16 rounds and I said, I am going to do this. It transforms your heart without the dhrida vrata. And I know it takes a lot for all of us to manage and balance our family life, our work life. And, Rahul and I have always been in jobs which have been, 12, 13 hours of work a day. But it's about what we always say, it's about prioritization and determination. So that was the turning point in my life. And today being, Guru Maharaj's appearance day, calendared appearance day, I want to recall that incident for all of you also, who, maybe some of you don't struggle, but maybe some of you do, because it's very natural. The force of Maya is very natural for us to struggle. And that determination and that commitment is the only thing that takes you forward. So, just a few important points from what we read about the summary. For those who are engaged in devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this is important. Okay. All sinful reactions, whether fructified in the stalk or in the form of a seed, gradually vanish. They will not vanish overnight, but over time, they gradually start vanishing, because all the new actions that we are taking, clearly, they have that kavacha or protection that they are in devotional service. And those that are in stock or in the form of a seed, gradually with Krishna's mercy, they start to diminish. Therefore, the purifying potency of devotional service is very strong. So, like I said a few minutes ago, the potency of a pure soul is very strong. In a 30-minute meeting, something that I was not able to do for 15 years, in that 30-minute meeting that day, it transformed me. Not because I had any good qualities, it's because Guru Maharaj is so pure, because he's following the path of devotional service, following disciplic succession. They also say that, the deities that are served for very, that are served very truthfully with devotional service and very nicely, those deities also become so potent. And here we're talking about people who have direct influence on you. They're not ordinary people, because they have purified their soul so much. They're able to be so potent in purifying other souls. So the purifying potency of devotional service is very strong, and it is called Pavitram Uttamam, the purest. Uttama means transcendental. So tamas means in this material world of darkness, uttama means which is transcendental to the material activities. Devotional activities are never to be considered material. We've read it multiple times in multiple verses. Even today, the kids talked about it. Although sometimes it appears that the devotee is engaged like ordinary men, one who can see and is familiar with devotional service will know that they are not material activities. They are all spiritual and devotional, uncontaminated by the modes of nature. So early on in my devotional life, we have some very, very good and very, very advanced devotee friends. And we were, of course, neophytes, so we did not understand clearly how even the normal activities of devotees is not material activities. So they bought a Mercedes and then they bought a Lexus. So I was like, hey, if you're a devotee, why are you focused on buying a Mercedes or a Lexus? So why would you not buy an ordinary car? So I was questioning their devotion. Of course, now I've known them for 20 years, and I have to tell you, they are so advanced that I was the moodha to question that. And over time, I noticed that yes, they bought a Mercedes and they bought a Lexus, but they have only been using those vehicles in the service of the Lord. I mean, outside of your normal commute, they were traveling throughout Southern California and preaching, distributing books, uh, and engaging themselves in service of the Lord. So even though it appeared like a material activity, it was not a material activity. Everything they bought, everything they used was in the service of the Lord. When you do that, you are freed from the reaction of anything that would have normally been a karmic activity. It is said that the execution of devotional service is so perfect that one can achieve the results directly. This direct result is actually perceived, and we have practical experience that any person who is chanting the holy names of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, in the course of chanting without offenses, feels some transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of all material contamination. This is actually seen. So Srila Prabhupada has said this. It is actually seen. I heard from Nirantara Prabhu that Srila Prabhupada used to tell his disciples that if you chant 16 rounds, follow the four regulative principles. Of course, Srila Prabhupada said chant 16 rounds. When he said, he meant without offenses. Follow the four regulative principles. And Prabhupada said, you will go back to Godhead in this lifetime. He told all his disciples that. So we know that if by the execution of devotional service, if we do it perfectly, the results will be perfect too. Furthermore, if one engages not only in hearing, but in trying to broadcast the message of devotional activities as well, or if he engages himself in helping the missionary activities of Krishna consciousness, he gradually feels spiritual progress. This advancement in spiritual life does not depend on any kind of previous education or qualification. The method is so pure that by simply engaging in it, one becomes pure. So Srila Prabhupada is reminding us that not only in hearing, but if you try to broadcast this message of devotional activities, that is even a step ahead. In Bhagavad Gita 1868, Krishna says, for one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end, he will come back to me. Again, when we read the translations a few days ago of Bhagavad Gita, one thing that I uh, and again, I think that is the only time in the year when we read the Gita end to end, okay, in one sitting. So it is just phenomenal, and I want to thank everybody who helped in organizing that, because I can tell you I've been doing this Bhagavad Gita Yajna for participating in Bhagavad Gita Yajna for 18, 20 years now. And even though this was in Zoom, I can tell you this was the best. I told Rahul, this was the best Bhagavad Gita recitation that I have sat through. It was full of love, and every devotee who came to read the verses or to read the translation did it with sincerity and love. And that was so evident, that made it so potent. So Krishna says, and by reading the Bhagavad Gita, we know these verses are repeated in different ways and forms, just to tell us the same message over and over again. It probably took that whole conversation a few hours when it happened on the battlefield, and it's taken us lifetimes, and we have not been able to understand and implement on it. So now that everybody has sat through this Bhagavad Gita recitation, the one urge that we always had from all our senior devotees in the LA temple was, please read every day. And I'm going to ask everybody to do the same thing. Read one verse. I know, I don't, I've only recently started implementing this, so I can say it. One verse does not take time, but read it with the full intention and understanding verse, synonyms, translation, and purport. Purport is very important. Obviously, we were not able to read the whole purport of every chapter. It would have taken us days to complete it. But when you are reading one verse a day or two verses a day, make sure you read Srila Prabhupada's purport. That is where the actual nectar is hidden. So in the Vedanta Sutra, it is also described that prakashascha karmani abhyasad. Devotional service is so potent that simply by engaging in activities of devotional service, one becomes enlightened without a doubt. And a practical example of this is also given in the previous life of Narada Muni. who in that life happened to be the son of a maidservant. He had no education, nor was he born into a high family. And so, in those days, education was spiritual education. So, he did not have the means to go to a spiritual master and seek education. When his mother was engaged in serving great devotees, Narad Muni also became engaged. And sometimes, in the absence of his mother, he would serve the great devotees himself. And what he would do is he would serve the devotees, offer them prasadam, and take permission from them to have the remnants of their prasadam. In this way, by serving them and having the remnants of their prasadam, we all know the importance of Narad Muni. So, in his previous life, he had conducted such pious activities that gave him the opportunity to then uh, get his spiritual education from Vyasadeva. That is how potent uh, devotional service is. Simply by engaging in the activities of devotional service, one becomes enlightened without a doubt. So I think I talked about this. Going on, we're just wrapping up the summary of chapter 9. The process of devotional service is a very happy one. So sukham. Why is that so? Devotional service consists of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. We know, I mean, it goes on. So one can simply hear the chanting of the glories of the Lord or can attend philosophical lectures on transcendental knowledge given by authorized acharyas. Be very careful. In today's Kali Yuga, there are so many people who give lectures, philosophical lectures. You have to be very selective and take this knowledge only from authorized acharyas. Some people may say, you're saying this because you are biased. But let me tell you, it's better to be careful and be biased and take it from in the disciplic succession than to go with what I would say is those who are good at speaking and giving lectures. Simply by sitting, one can learn. Then one can eat the remnants of food offered to God, nice palatable dishes. In every state, devotional service is very joyful. One can execute devotional service in the most poverty-stricken condition. The Lord says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. We know in this 9th chapter itself, Lord gives this instruction. He's ready to accept from the devotee any kind of offering, never mind what, even a leaf, a flower, a bit of fruit, or a little water, okay, can be offered by a person regardless, but it should be offered with sincerity and love. Now, of course, the instruction given to us is it does not mean if you can offer, if you are going to eat a sumptuous meal, you offer patram pushpam phalam toyam, you offer everything in your capacity. This example is given for anybody who cannot offer something else. The Lord will accept everything if it is offered with love. But if you have the ability to offer a sumptuous meal to the Lord, never resolve to saying, I offered water, so I did my duty. It is not checking the box. For years, I have gone through this realization as to when I'm doing things to check the box and when I'm doing things from my heart. And there is that inner voice that tells me this was checking the box. And while you may do it to make that habit, to develop that desire and to develop love, that is not the end goal. The end goal is to develop love for Krishna. So now let's go back to the purport for this. What we are saying is in for the verse that we just read. Before this, Krishna is talking about, in verse 9.13, Krishna is instructing Arjuna and giving the definition of Mahatma. It's very important to know this definition before we go on to the purport for this verse. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded the great souls under the protection of my divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. So, before talking about always chanting my glories and remembering me and doing it with determination, this verse 9.14, the verse before that, Krishna first gives Arjuna the definition of Mahatma. Srila Prabhupada says, the Mahatma cannot be manufactured by rubber stamping an ordinary man. We don't call anybody a Mahatma. Even if somebody is a great motivational speaker, they don't become Mahatma because the definition of Mahatma is provided by Krishna. His symptoms are described here. A Mahatma is always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. He has no other business. So, if you have to call somebody Mahatma, you really need to see if they are expressing these qualities. He's always engaged in the glorification of the Lord. In other words, he's not an impersonalist. Okay. When the question of glorification is there, one has to glorify the Supreme Lord. You That is why Srila Prabhupada emphasized, and the whole Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy is based on the personified form of the Lord. The Lord has a form. You have to glorify the Supreme Lord, not just glorify, in a void, praising his holy name, his eternal form, his transcendental qualities, and his uncommon pastimes. So this word uncommon pastimes, caught my attention because Krishna Leela cannot be performed by an ordinary person, right? Likewise, a Mahatma's pastimes will also, our activities are also not like ordinary people. So when we glorify the Lord, we glorify Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill. That is an uncommon pastime. We don't know anybody in the history who could have lifted Govardhan Hill on their little finger. One has to glorify all these things. Therefore, a Mahatma will do all this, is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to it's not the impersonal form, it is the personal form. It is very hard to get in 12th chapter devotional service when Arjuna asks Krishna, what is better, serving the form of the Lord or in the impersonal form? And Krishna has responded to Arjuna saying that you can go ahead and worship the impersonal form, but it is very difficult for this entrapped soul to be able to be attached and perform devotional loving service to an impersonal form. Krishna said ultimately they will find their way, but really those who are worshipping my personal form, they are the ones who are demonstrating the perfection of devotional service. So you have a choice to take a detour and take the long route, and the risk if you fall from that path, or there's a direct path, which Krishna has said in chapter 12, devotional service. The Mahatma is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who is attached to the supreme feature, one who is attached to the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord, the Brahma Jyoti, is not described as a Mahatma in the Bhagavad Gita. I have many relatives who follow different paths, and many of them, some of them only believe in the Brahma Jyoti. That is the potency of the Lord, but their belief is that they will go back and they will merge into that Brahma Jyoti. Some of them read the Bhagavad Gita, but they don't believe in Krishna. They read the Bhagavad Gita from a learning perspective, from a more of a scholarly perspective, but they don't believe that there is anything Krishna. They believe it was all just for a story form. That is all in the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord. You cannot develop a loving relationship unless you know that this is the form. Krishna's form is described in Krishna's books. His qualities are described. His attributes are described. The markings on his feet are described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Everything is described. Krishna is not abstract. Krishna is a form. The Mahatma, then it says, is always engaged in different activities of devotional service. How can you perform devotional service without forming that attachment to the form? To me, I don't think we can develop attachment to inanimate things very easily. When you and if the Lord was able to give us a form, why would the Lord not have a form? Okay. Continuing on this, the Mahatma, so the Mahatma definition is not about those who are worshipping the impersonal feature. Mahatma is always engaged in devotional service to the form of the Lord. Okay, hearing and chanting about Vishnu, not a demigod or a human being. Very important. We don't want to hear and chant about anyone other than Krishna. That is devotion. Shravanam Kirtanam, it says Vishnu Smaranam. Okay, remembering the form of the Lord. Such a Mahatma has firm determination. All our acharyas, they lived a very simple life, but they were very firm in their determination. They had set rules for themselves and they, lived by those rules. To achieve the ultimate end, the association of the Supreme Lord. To achieve that success, he engages all activities. So the Mahatma, with determination, engages all activities, mental, bodily, vocal, just everything in the service of the Supreme Lord Krishna, Sri Krishna. That is full Krishna consciousness. So going back to that example that I shared, me questioning, why do you need a Mercedes, if you're devoted? It's a very common thing that people, we are all just, we've all grown up to, a natural tendency we have is to judge others. And that judging is based on external features. But that is one bad quality that we need to give up. And in order to give up some of these bad qualities, we have to follow certain instructions with firm determination. It takes time because obviously these bad qualities have been with us for lifetimes. But it is again a journey and a transformation, and any journey, change, transformation takes time, but you have to follow the prescribed process. In devotional service, there are activities that are which are called determined. So why is the word determination? Why am I hovering so much around the word determination? Because that determination is applicable in all forms of devotional service. So, such as fasting on certain days, Ekadashi, when we fast, appearance days of the Lord, when we fast. Fasting takes determination, right? It is so natural for us to eat 2 or 3 times a day. And then to say that I'm not going to eat, some of you fasted all through Kartik, some of you did Bhishma Panchaka, all that takes determination. Again, you will hear, I don't believe in fasting. Why fast? God doesn't want us to stay hungry. It's not God who wants us to stay hungry. These are all ways for us to strengthen our determination. Every religion that I know has some form of fasting. Okay. Why is it in every religion? Because it is testing self-control. It is testing our determination. And unless we can develop determination for smaller things, that is how we will develop determination for bigger things. All these rules and regulations are offered by the great acharyas for those who are actually interested. So again, they're offered by the acharyas, but really it is for those who are actually interested in getting admission into the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we know there are many of our devotee children who are in high school, okay, and from the sophomore year or junior year, you start saying, okay, I want to go to this college or this university, and then you start reading, okay, what are the requirements? Then you start working towards the requirements, right? So likewise, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has given us the requirements for admission to his transcendental world. And we have to, inch by inch, start working on those requirements, because once we fulfill those requirements, then we can get admission. So as they say, the material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So what we see here in the material world, we have to fulfill certain requirements to apply for a job, to get admission in a college. Likewise, getting admission to the spiritual world also has those requirements, and we've got to work on that. Otherwise, we'll keep spinning in that circle of birth and death. And there is a chance that in one lifetime, we will fall down from the human birth. Once we fall down from the human birth, it's going through those 8,400,000 species before we get back this human birth, and then we can elevate ourselves to be qualified to get admission to the transcendental world. The Mahatmas, great souls, strictly observe all these rules and regulations, and therefore they are sure to achieve the result. So we want to start, at least by whatever activities we do, we want to do them with determination and strictly follow those. It's not a race that I got to get all of them done in one day. But remember, time is ticking, and it's this lifetime. We don't know what our next lifetime will be. So we have got this opportunity in this lifetime, and we should definitely make use of it. And going back to the second verse, not only is devotional service easy, but it can be performed in a happy mood. There are some people who tell me, you know what, I don't like one thing about ISKCON, it's too negative. It makes you realize that you have very little time and you have to do this, otherwise you're not going to elevate. I don't like that. And my response to him was, it's up to you how you look at it. If you look at it as, I am going to make this easy and loving, if you love to do something, we tell our children, right? Do what you love when you go to college, follow your passion. I mean, these are all things parents tell their children. So we have to tell ourselves the same thing about devotional service. It takes time. It may take a little bit of time to start loving this, but it is a journey. If you keep practicing, I can tell you, just the mercy of the association, the deities, the spiritual master, it just starts flowing towards you, and it makes it easy. Every day of practicing makes it easy. And maybe in the beginning, you're not getting that transcendental happiness, but for sure, it will bring you in a happy mood. It used to be there. We used to live almost an hour and 20 minutes from the temple. And some Sundays, it was hard for all of us to go as a family. And the Sundays I would miss, rest of my week was not a good week. So I started saying, you know what, I just need to go because I need to recharge my batteries. And going to the temple, associating with the devotees, because it was so transcendental, it gave me the strength to get through the whole week again. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of secrets. It is the purest knowledge. And because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is perfection of religion. I'm going to move on to, I know I've probably gone over time. So I want to take as to what is our learning from 9.14. Okay. Always that. So what it is saying is, always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So the key learning from this verse is, if we engage ourselves in always chanting, hearing about Krishna with faith and determination, then gradually the dirty things within our heart, all that dirt within our heart will be cleansed. Okay. There will be a clear direction what to do in which circumstances and how to do it. And this is the king of all knowledge. So I'm going to pause here. Talked for about an hour. So I'm going to pause here to see if there are any questions.
Prabhu, I think you're on mute. Satya sir.
Anand Prabhu, your question?
No, Prabhu, I saw that I think you were talking, but it was on mute.
No, I'm not talking. Sorry.
Okay, Prabhu. I don't have a question. Wonderful lecture, Mataji. Thank you so much for sharing your realizations.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. This was wonderful, wonderful class. Actually, one of the examples which you gave was such a nice, simple example. I very much liked it. Vegetables takes a shorter time, whereas mango taking longer time. That is a very excellent comparison to have to understand about how to explain the karma, effect of karma. That was a very amazing example. Also very happy to hear all those your personal stories, and, how these events motivated you. That's wonderful. Very much for sharing all those things.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Nice class, Mataji. I like how you told about like prioritization, determination, and commitment is very important in our spiritual life. And I like the story of about that the king and the 4 wives. So in this material world, we give so much importance to our body, and we forget about the taking care of our soul. And that is was a very enlightening one. Thank you, Mataji, for the amazing class.
Thank you, Mataji. So hopefully we are all charged for our New Year resolutions, and not just once a year, but every day we have to be determined in advancing. Srila Prabhupada said, if you are not moving forward, then you are moving backward. So even Guru Maharaj said, there is no staying stagnant in devotional service. So we are our own, we have to look within our heart to see if we are making any progress, because if we are not, then we have to urge ourselves or reach out to, senior devotees like Satyasar Prabhu and Jai Subhadra Mataji, who will guide us. So I would just encourage everybody, now that we've done the Bhagavad Gita Yajna, read Bhagavad Gita every day. Even if it is one verse, just read every day. If you read one verse also every day, you are going to finish reading the Bhagavad Gita in 2 years. So it's not a very long time.
Okay, if there are no more questions, maybe we'll Pushpanjali Mataji will give thank you note.
Hare Krishna. Actually, had a question. Hare
Okay,
Krishna.
Prabhu just manifested. Yes,
Yes,
Prabhu,
sir.
please go ahead.
So I'm convinced, at least, in the personal form of Shri Krishna, and it's easier to do it so that way, to worship in the personal form. But I could use more understanding on how to persuasively convey that the personal form is the supreme way of worshipping Shri Krishna, as opposed to the Brahma Jyoti.
I'm going to try and address your question, Arjun Prabhu, and Satyasar Prabhu, please jump in. So first and foremost, I think if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're saying you a little more let's be a little more elaborate as to why the personal form. Is that right, Arjun Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji.
So to begin with, and if one of the things I would ask you to do is, in Krishna book, I think towards the end, there is a chapter on personification. So that tells us that there is in the spiritual world, everything is personified. Okay, wind, air, sun, everything is personified. Krishna, to me, the biggest proof that that Krishna exists in personal form is not just by reading Bhagavad Gita, but if we were given a form, every animal, every creature, inanimate, animate, is given a form. If the mystic creator could give all of us a form, And the reason he's given all of us a form is so that we recognize this form with each other. And, we build that association. Sometimes Rahul will forget who I'm talking about. He says, oh, that person who who works at IBM, or that person, because we are building those connections in our brain. Then the creator of form for the planet, the system, the creatures, if he could give everybody a form, why would he not have a form? To me, that is the biggest proof that Krishna has a form, and his form is explained in a very detailed manner in Srimad Bhagavatam, in multiple chapters and stories. So, Prabhu, would you like to add something, Satyasar Prabhu?
You beautifully summarized, and just maybe one more point I will add, the logical point. If we have form, but God doesn't have form, so that means we are superior to God, actually. So we have something that he doesn't have it. So then how can he be a God? So that is another way to look at it. I'm just piling on to what Mataji said. But there are a number of references in the scripture. Krishna himself tells that Brahmano hi pradistaham. I am beyond the Brahman, because Brahman is my effulgence, the energy coming out of my body, and the effulgence coming out of my body. So Krishna makes it very clear in Bhagavad Gita, multiple places, isn't it? And also, not only the Supreme Lord himself is saying, even Lord Brahma is also saying, Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Ananta Rupam. What is Rupam? The form, isn't it? So he says that. Yete Chamsa Kala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So he is the Bhagavan, the Swayam Bhagavan. Bhagavan means one who has the form. So you can see Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra says it. Even if we apply our material logic or mind to understand it, like Mataji was saying, and we can see that if we have something and God doesn't have it, he cannot be a God. So he has to be something more, right? So in that way we can understand it, that the Supreme Lord has the form. And the Supreme Lord is perceived in three aspects, and that is also Bhagavatam says, right? Vadanti tattva vidatatvam, vadanti tattva vidastatvam, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti. There are three aspects. So there is a Brahman, all pervading effulgence coming from the Lord's body. Then his local aspect, Paramatma, Paramatmeti. Then Bhagavan iti, that is Supreme Lord. So depending on how we realize, and we can realize, but the topmost is Bhagavan realization. So that's a short answer for you, Arjun Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
No problem.
Hare Krishna Mataji. I have one question. It's a great lecture. My question is very basic. I am still a newbie. So based on several lectures that I have been hearing and a very small amount of devotional service that I'm doing, I do see some changes in myself where I don't get that excited on seeing, on getting material pleasures, but I'm not in a level where I can completely get ecstatic feeling from devotional service either. So I'm in kind of progressing, but at the same time in a neutral mode where I'm not getting completely happy by chanting, or so is this a normal feeling, or is this, I'm not sure if it is a path in a progress or if it is a backward progress. I'm not sure. So,
Mataji, thank you for sharing. First and foremost, it takes a lot of courage to, in a forum to share how you're feeling. So thank you for sharing. And I will tell you that it is very normal. Like, I personally, for me, I'm going to give a very mundane example here. I don't like exercising. Okay. And because I don't like exercising, even when, like, my husband would tell me, once you start doing it for a month, you will start enjoying it and you will start doing it. Okay. But obviously, if you don't do it for a month, the first few days, you know how you feel. You're like, oh, you have to force yourself to get up and exercise, right? So to start developing, even in, all the healthy habits and everything. They say it takes 21 days to develop a habit. Okay, that is even for material things. So what you are experiencing is very common. It, you can experience this for months, sometimes years. I experienced it for years. But you have to remember one thing. Of course, you have to have faith and confidence that you are following the right path. When we initially start doing it, our Guru Maharaj said, when he initially went to the temple, he was given the job of washing all the pots and pans. Can you imagine the potency that after washing all the pots and pans, very soon he elevated to such a great sannyasi? So any activity that you will do, just keep doing it. One thing is, do it without cessation. Do not stop. Keep doing it. It is a transformation. Examples in ISKCON that they give is, if a mirror is covered by dust, you have to wipe the dust. Imagine your soul to be a very large mirror, okay, that you are starting to wipe now. So you don't get through it in one day, in 1 week. It is so large, even though the size of the soul is considered minute, but the imprint on it is for lifetimes and lifetimes. So to remove that imprint and to put a new imprint, it takes time. So my recommendation is, what you're experiencing first and foremost is very normal. But two things to remember is, have faith and continue trying to increase your activities just a little bit. Maybe you do 1 round, 2 rounds today, next month start doing 3 rounds. The month after that, start doing 4 rounds. Do it in one thing which we realized is, and I can tell you from personal experience, I went from 0 to 100 in the first year. Okay, it was not sustainable for me. Okay, and then I started falling back. Then again, a few years later, I went from 0 to 100 again, and it was not sustainable. I fell back. What I learned from 20 years is, keep doing it in increments that you can sustain. So, because if you keep oscillating between 0 and 1, then there is a chance, that you will completely give it up one day. So don't do that. Keep growing in small increments, because these are building blocks. Build the next block on the block below, and that will get you to a point where you will start loving it, and you will start enjoying it, and it'll become very easy for you. I know exercising or healthy eating is just an example, but we can relate to those examples, so that's why I referred to them.
A nice explanation, Mataji. Thank you.
Mataji, can I ask a question?
Sure, Mataji.
Mataji, you talked about devotional service. My situation with devotional, so you also mentioned the fruitive activities. So I have that, karma kandi mentality of trying to enjoy the fruits. And it is so severe that it's like not even after you get the fruits, even when I get a service, I immediately become very proud, and I imagine, oh, if it is so good, I imagine the fruits, then I already start eating it. And so that is one part of the problem. And the other part is, when I came into Krishna consciousness, one of my Shiksha Guru, Harikesh Prabhu, used to tell me the importance of doing menial service. And you just mentioned that about Rumapad Maharaj, doing the washing the pots. But I see many times the services that I'm given are not menial, that they put me in front of people, where it's not easy for me to, deal with my situation, where, I can do it dutifully without attachment and for the pleasure of the Lord. So, you have any guidelines, suggestions?
I'm going to ask Satyasar Prabhu to jump in, but here is what I would say. Any service, menial or in front. Now, I remember when we used to go to the temple, a lot of, after the class would be over or the kirtan would be over, people would come and say, oh, what a lovely class, what lovely kirtan. And I would say, oh, none of this would be possible without Maya Mataji, Jesubhadra Mataji, and everybody else who cooked. Because let me tell you, if there is no prasadam, there will be the attendance is going to probably go down. So the only way I have learned is to pass on that gratitude to those who are not as visible in their service, because by passing that gratitude, we try to learn and imbibe humility. Satyasar Prabhu, anything you would like to add?
No, that's a very good question actually. But again, it's when you become a devotee of Krishna, so then what happens? Everything is mercy only. So we are product of mercy. The product of mercy of our guru, product of mercy of our senior Vaishnavas, and product of mercy of Shiksha gurus, and that's how we get Krishna's mercy. So how do we get the mercy? How do we become the product of mercy? It is by surrendering to the will of the Lord. How do we know the will of the Lord? Through these Vaishnavas only, right? So yes, we may have some inclination. Okay, I want to do this kind of service. I do not want to do that kind of service. So then we can have an open discussion and say, this is what I can do, or my heart is into the services, but these services I am not comfortable. If you have an open discussion, then maybe the senior devotees may adjust accordingly, according to a person's nature and things like that. But generally, what happens is that the service is given to us. It's not that the senior devotee is giving to us. It is given to us by the Lord himself. That is one way to look at it. It's because the inspiration comes within the heart. I don't think anybody will just put us in a situation where voluntarily I want to do something, intentionally I want to make her suffer or make him suffer. They don't do that. It comes, the Lord gives us that service, and we surrender and we do it. Then the potency to execute the service also comes with it, which we heard it multiple times, right? So that faith has to be there. But if something it's really we are not ready for it and things like that, of course we can have an open discussion with the senior devotees, and they may not give that kind of service to us. Okay, but the more we so that is we are talking about the Guru Kripa comes like that only. The Kripa pushes us to go to the next level in our devotional service. So that is a mercy. Sometimes we may not be ready for it. So then we need to work towards it. Okay, I'm not ready now, but I want to do it with a goal. So that is the goal. I want to do the service. So let me develop, let me prepare myself, like Srila Prabhupada. Of course, it's a pure devotee, it's a Siddha. But his Guru Maharaj said, you go to Western world and preach. But Prabhupada had all other responsibilities. So he was preparing for that, to execute that service. He didn't do it immediately, isn't it? But he kept that as a goal. This is the instruction I received and I want to do it. It's a lifetime of preparation. Then Prabhupada came here and he did a revolution, spiritual revolution in the Western countries. So like that. But the point is that having that open discussion, opening our heart to the mentors and senior devotees is the key for our growth. Sometimes mind also will block us. Mind will make us to feel that I'm not ready for it. But how does mind know that, right? So we have to look through the Shastras, look through the senior devotees, our Shiksha gurus, our gurus like that. Then we can see if it is a mind telling us, or is it, we really not ready for it. Again, that is also mind only, right? So we need to evaluate that and do it. At the end of the day, Pushpendra Mataji, it's pretty clear. Service has to be done wholeheartedly. One time I'm going to pick Jai Subhadra here, because it's our family here. Everybody is here. So she was given a service of preaching. But she is a very shy person by nature. She cannot come in front of people and things like that. But the seniors who gave her a service is that the senior told her that I'm also shy, but that person has been preaching for 20 years when he gave that service. So I'm also shy, but I go in front because it's a duty, it's a service. So as soon as my class is over, you'll just go out and hide somewhere. He doesn't even want to see people, because at that time he was doing it because it's a service given to him. So he told Jai Subhadra, I was there. You should do the same, in the same mood, the mood of service, even though we might not have everything is required to do it perfectly, but the mood of service, and we'll do it. Then Krishna will make it happen, and we'll also grow through that actually. I don't know if I answered your question, but some thoughts.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing, Prabhuji. Very nice thoughts to ponder upon and work upon. Thank you so much, Supreme Mataji. I'll wait if there are other questions.
Devotees, if you have any other questions, please ask. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next agenda. Okay, Pushpanjali Mataji.
Yeah, very wonderful class. You took us through the whole 9th chapter. Really liked, like you started off with the qualification of a person who can receive the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, that we should try and be non-envious. Then you talked about the nature of transcendental knowledge, of how fruitive work and what the reactions are, and specifically you mentioned that sinful actions, they are our cause of our miseries and suffering. And you talked about the importance of doing anything, devotional activities or otherwise, with firm determination, Dridhavrata. Then you talked about the potency of devotional service. There's so many, I'm not going to talk all of them. And you gave the very nice example of Narad Muni. Then you talked about Srila Prabhupada's, I'm just going to repeat the same thing. If you do follow the 4 regs and chant 16 rounds without offenses, this lifetime we can go back to Krishna. And then you gave the definition of who the Mahatma is. And you talked about one quality also that we should work on is that we should not try to judge other people. And then you gave the summary of the whole of the 14th verse of the 9th chapter. The important thing is how we should always be chanting with determination, and that will clear our hearts and it'll give us the right direction, and how this whole chapter is the king of knowledge. So thank you so much, Mataji.
That's a wonderful summary, Pushpanjali Mataji. Thank you. Thank you, Manjari Mataji, for the nice class. So with that, we'll make a quick announcements. Then we are going to make a special announcement of our quiz, Bhagavad Gita quiz winners. Veena Mataji will do that. Then we'll conclude the program with Nashingarati, that Rekha Mataji will sing.
Pahunchna 2 baje.
So with that, I just make a very important announcements today, and I'm going to make it. So we have 3 birthdays to celebrate this week. Abhay Charan Prabhu's birthday, Rekha Mataji's birthday, and Pankaj Prabhu's birthday. So just for their spiritual benefit, let us all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra 3 times for this wonderful devotees. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the second announcement is for this New Year's Eve on December 31st, we are going to have a Maha Sankirtan Yagna, meaning we all are going to come together, all the devotees will come together and chant the holy names of the Lord, and also sing his glories through bhajans and kirtans and things like that. So it is such a glorious event. So we would like to humbly request all of you to attend this program online. And if you need more information, please contact Neha Mataji and Rasamaya Mataji, and they can give you all the details. Third announcement, we are going to have a very special Mangalarti program on Jan 1st, which is New Year Day, to begin the New Year with devotion and auspiciousness. So Mangalarti program will start at 5:30. Then, of course, after Mangalarti program, we will have Bhagavatam class as well. In fact, that's part of the Mangalarti program. So please attend the Mangalarti on Jan 1st. Jai Subhadra will be sending the details of the program shortly. Then on Jan 3rd, we have a very special program. Very, very special program with His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj, actually. Giriraj Maharaj is a most senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and he is a sannyasi and an initiating spiritual master of ISKCON. A very, very powerful devotee in our movement. And Maharaj has made many, many significant contributions to Srila Prabhupada's mission all over the world, most notably the development of Hare Krishna land in Juhu, the Juhu temple. It's a world famous, and all over the world, people from all over the world go to Bombay and they visit Juhu temple. It's such a glorious temple. and Maharaj was a pillar of the Juhu temple, and he built the whole temple from the scratch. The temple we see today is Maharaj's unique contribution to Srila Prabhupada, and he pleased Srila Prabhupada by doing the project so successfully. And also Maharaj has had an active part in the famous, yesterday I was telling this, the Cross Maidan Festival, Cross Maidan Festival in Bombay with Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And that was a very, successful preaching program at that time when Prabhupada was on the planet. They made very prominent devotees. Very prominent devotees came from that program. A lot of prominent life members in Juhu, they made and through that program and so on. So, and also I would put it like this: the spiritual, the edifice that we see in Bombay, meaning thousands and thousands of people took up Krishna consciousness and still taking Krishna consciousness today and living a life of bhakti. That is because the seed was laid by His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj, actually. So we are reaping the fruits now, actually. So such is the glory of Giriraj Maharaj, and of course his glories are unlimited. But just to make a couple of the mention, the call outs. So with that, Maharaj also a prolific writer. He has written many books. The books that which really touched me and helping me and also helped me in my Krishna consciousness, Watering the Seed. It's a beautiful rendition actually of Maharaj's spiritual evolution and things like that. The Many Moons, then Life's Final Exam, Death and Dying from the Vedic perspective. So these are some notable books. And also Maharaj recently launched Srila Prabhupada's monumental efforts in Bombay, the Bombay project. I'll build you a temple, the Juhu story. That's the title of the book. I have not read it yet, but it's much awaited actually. So all over the world, devotees are waiting for that book to come. So these books are like a transcendental gems that Maharaj has produced. So I would say it is a rarest opportunity to get Maharaj's association. And I know all these, the pure devotees are getting old. And it's extraordinary mercy upon us that Maharaj is showing by agreeing to do the program. So I would like to humbly request all of you to please attend the program. It's the next Sunday, same time, 12:15, the program will start with your family and get Maharaj's blessings. It's a new year. And also please invite your family members, friends to attend this program, so let them also get Maharaj's blessings. So that's the most important announcement for today. We also got the fifth announcement is 2021 BBT calendars. If you want to know the Vaishnava festivals and Ekadasi and all other details, so we have the calendars available for you. And this is also an ideal gift actually that you can give as a New Year gift to your friends and families, and which has all the beautiful Vaishnava arts and things like that. So if you're interested in getting a copy, so please talk to Satyarupa Prabhu. He is in charge of our book distribution for the temple. So with that, I'm going to request Veena Mataji to give announcement of our quiz winners.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Just share my screen. Hare Krishna, everyone. So I would like to sincerely and heartfelt thank you to all the participants for taking part in the Gita Jayanti quiz contest. This was our very first launch of quiz on the website, and it was very humbling experience that everyone took part so enthusiastically, and it really encourages us to want to do more such programs, so the whole community can come together, and as family they can take part and spend that time in devotional services. So really thank you everyone for taking part in the contest. And of course everyone is a winner, but just based on the quiz score, there were basically 20 questions. We just went with the top scores in the quiz, and we're just announcing those winners. It's really amazing how everyone has taken part. I will go the first place. So in the first place, we have Arya, Akhilesh, Anurag and Neha, Triti, Nitesh Prabhu, Shweta Mataji, Karthik and Yana, Prasanna Prabhu, Sri Devi Mataji and Chaitanya, Satyarupa Prabhu, Rasmi Mataji and Samandita, Swarna Manjari Mataji. And there is one person, we don't know who it is because we just have email IDs of everyone. It's probably someone from Facebook or the WhatsApp messages that we forwarded. So these are the first prize winners. And in the second place, we have Atmamaya Mataji, Jishnu, Sunil Prabhu, Paurnamasi Mataji, and Ananya. And third place, we have Prabhakaran Prabhu. With this, these are the winners. I would also like to express my gratitude to Umesh Prabhu. Umesh Prabhu spent tireless amounts of effort to come up with this building. Like I would just tell Prabhu, this is not there, like that is there, we need this. And the last whole week, he has spent every single day, 3-4 hours, including even now, today morning. So thank you very much, Umesh Prabhu, and thank you, Neha Mataji, for supporting. And I would also like to thank Satyasara Prabhu and Jai Subhadra Mataji for giving us this opportunity to serve. This is something that we really enjoyed doing, and we are very fortunate that you gave us this service. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Veena Mataji. Congratulations, all the kids and the grown-ups. So with that, we'll move on to the next part of the agenda, which is Narshing Arati, will be done by Rekha Mataji. Rekha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I'm not a singer, but still I got the opportunity to sing for Narasimha Dev. Just focus on the lyrics. Namaste Narasingaya. Namaste Narasingaya. Namaste Narasingaya. Namaste Narasingaya. Pranadaladadayini. Pranadaladadayini. Hiranyaka bringa kesavadrita narahari rupa jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare tavakara kamala hare naka adbhuta shringa dalita hiranyakashipu tanu bringa kesavadrita narahari rupa jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare kesavadrita narahari rupa jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare kesavadrita narahari rupa jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare jaya Narasimhadev 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 jaya Narasimhadev jaya Narasimhadev jaya Narasimhadev jaya Narasimhadev jaya Prahlad Maharaj 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 jaya jaya Gurudev 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 jaya jaya Gurudev 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 jaya jaya Gurudev jaya jaya Prabhupada 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 jaya jaya Prabhupada 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 jaya jaya Prabhupada Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gaura Hari Bol विघ्न विनाश लक्ष्मी नरसिम्हा स्वामी की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय
Gopal ki jai. Thank you, Rekha Mataji, Priti and Jishnu for supporting, and Ram Prabhu, thanks for singing along with them, Prabhu. With that, we'll conclude our program here. Thank you, devotees, for joining. Looking forward to seeing you all on Maha Sankirtan Yajna on 31st December. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Anand Prabhu. Umesh Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Radhan Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. We'll stop.